SpaceX's planned $100 billion Louisiana Starbase would support thousands of annual Starship launches from a new Gulf Coast hub. This is SpaceX Daily, Episode 81. SpaceX plans a 10-pad Starship launch complex at a former Exxon site in Vermilion Parish, Louisiana. Construction is scheduled to begin in 2027, with the first orbital flight targeted for 2029. The facility is sized for thousands of annual launches and will complement the existing Texas Starbase rather than replace it. Louisiana has no prior orbital launch history, making this the state's first such capability. The project is projected to create around 3,000 local jobs and position the site as the world's largest private spaceport. The design draws on modular systems already proven at Boca Chica to meet the aggressive timeline. The engineering reality is that a 10-pad complex removes the pad availability bottleneck and shifts the limiting factor to vehicle production and refurbishment rates. With a single pad, the minimum interval between flights is set by safing the pad, refurbishing ground systems, and stacking the next vehicle. 10 parallel pads allow multiple vehicles to be prepared simultaneously while others fly or recover. Propellant loading, engine ignition, and exhaust management stay the same, yet system throughput scales with the number of pads once manufacturing keeps pace. Raw material costs for concrete, steel, and cryogenic piping across 10 pads remain a small fraction of total spend. The larger expense comes from precision alignment, redundant safety systems, and real-time control networks that prevent mutual interference. The former Exxon coastal site brings higher humidity and salt air corrosion risks than Texas, requiring extra insulation and material choices for cryogenic lines. Distributed propellant farms and redundant flame trenches add further complexity and cost. The 2-year window from 2027 groundbreaking to 2029 first flight relies on prefabricated modular trench sections and standardized valve skids already qualified at Boca Chica. Success therefore hinges on Raptor engine and tank production scaling in parallel with the pads. The facility would feature 10 dedicated pads sized for Starship operations at the former Exxon site in Vermilion Parish. Aviation Week reports that construction is slated to begin in 2027, with the first Starship flight targeted for 2029. Louisiana has no prior orbital launch history despite building Saturn V stages. The design aims to handle far higher flight rates than existing Texas infrastructure. The announcement frames the Louisiana site as the largest private spaceport on Earth, according to Teslarati. Plans call for rapid scaling to thousands of flights per year once operational. The project would complement the existing Texas Starbase rather than replace it. Engadget states the $100 billion investment targets an old Exxon coastal property near Pecan Island. Local officials expect the project to create around 3,000 jobs during construction and operations. The site would become SpaceX's second major Starship launch complex. Advanced Television notes the facility is described as the biggest launch site on Earth once complete. Early work would focus on pad construction and supporting infrastructure ahead of Starship flights. The Gulf Coast location offers different weather and over-water trajectory options than Boca Chica. eGamers reports groundbreaking is scheduled for 2027 after environmental and local reviews. The project would add substantial new capacity beyond current Texas operations. Starship vehicles would use the pads for both launch and potential recovery. Business News 975 FM indicates the new complex would sit in Vermilion Parish and serve as a dedicated Starship hub. Project documents emphasize long-term operations supporting high launch cadence. Local economic impact studies are already underway. NASA spaceflight positions the site to become the company's primary high-volume Starship launch location. Plans include extensive ground support equipment sized for repeated rapid turnarounds. The project would mark the first orbital launch capability in Louisiana history. CBS 19 reports the location near Lafayette would host multiple pads and integration facilities. State and parish officials have begun coordination meetings on permitting and infrastructure. The development would expand SpaceX's geographic footprint for Starship testing and flights. On the AI front, the Louisiana pads are slated for dedicated launches of AI satellites and a 175 kilowatt orbital NVIDIA node. The orbital node adapts ground-based NVIDIA hardware for space conditions, with first opportunities targeted for the late 2020s. Plans include both conventional Starship missions and specialized AI satellite deployments once the pads become active. SpaceX unveils a $100 billion Louisiana spaceport that targets a 175 kilowatt NVIDIA AI system for orbit in 2027. The orbital node would adapt ground-based AI hardware for space conditions while using the new Louisiana pads for dedicated launches. Plans tie the compute payload directly to Starship flight opportunities, beginning in the late 2020s. SpaceX plans a $100 billion Louisiana Starship site for AI satellite launches, according to CNBC TV 18. The site would support both conventional Starship missions and specialized AI satellite deployments once pads are operational. One thing worth watching is whether the $100 billion capital commitment can be funded without delaying Starship or Starlink timelines. Execution depends on permits, local approvals, and sustained operations revenue. Analysts are monitoring whether the project advances without slowing the existing flight test cadence. SpaceX shares rose 2.2% on the news. Early risers across the East Coast reported unusual jellyfish-shaped exhaust plumes from a Falcon 9 launch visible from Delaware to Virginia. Observers shared photos and time-lapse footage of the persistent cloud formation under clear morning conditions. The plume extended unusually far inland with no operational impact reported. A quick market note: the stock posted a modest gain. Before we go, watch for updates on permitting and local approvals that will determine whether the 2029 first flight target holds. That covers everything worth knowing about SpaceX today. S&P CX is trading at $137.95, up 0.1%. A quick rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify goes a long way. I'm Patrick in Vancouver. See you tomorrow. This show comes to you from the NARA Network. If you want another sharp daily briefing, Planetarian Daily has you covered. Daily breakthroughs in science, health, and longevity. All our shows are free at naranetwork.com. Prefer reading? Today's full write-up, sources, and transcript are on the episode blog at naranetwork.com. Same briefing, readable format. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.